This is power. This voice, this is power. In anybody else's hands, this is a microphone. In my hands, it's a pipe bomb.
From pillar to post and coast to coast, this is the law.
Live audio wrestling.
Your number one source for pro wrestling and mixed martial arts news, interviews, and opinion.
We live, we breathe, we sweat, we paid the price to be the best.
With Dan the Meltzer,
The cream of the crop.
Jason Agnew,
Don't make him angry, please.
and John Pollock.
Where's the producer?
Live audio wrestling on TSN Radio.
Now it's time for streaming stuff. It's live. I can't believe it.
Welcome to a new era of the law. Live audio wrestling broadcasting at our new home on TSN Radio 1050. My name is Jason Agnew, and of course, I am joined by my decade-long tag team partner, Dan the Mouth of Ransky, and the brains behind this operation, John Pollock, and we are stoked to be back putting the live into live audio wrestling right here on TSN Radio. And for this, our debut edition, we have a stellar show lined up for you. Tell 'em, Mouth.
Yeah, Jay, it's time to take a walk on the wild side. Yeah, the law rises once again, ladies and gentlemen, and we are ready to get down to it with all you fans across the world. And like Jay said, we are styling and profiling right out of the gate, ladies and gentlemen. We have a stellar program for you tonight featuring the one and only hardcore legend, Mr. Bang Bang, Cactus Jack, Mankind, that's right, Mick Foley, right here tonight in conversation with our own John Pollock, including all the big news, his departure from TNA, coming to Toronto, and where he's headed next in the world of professional wrestling. We also have all our regular features, the Wrestling Observer Extra with the man himself, Dave Meltzer, Title Bout Trivia with your chance to win copies of the new Randy Orton DVD, Evolution of a Viper, and UFC 129. That's the first show ever held here in Toronto, and that's courtesy of E1 Entertainment and Anchor Bay Entertainment. And of course, as always, we want to hear from you all around the globe, Daddy.
That's right, Mouth. As I mentioned, we are live once again, and that means it's your time to call in and get interactive. New phone numbers for you. Write them down. 416-870-1050. Toll-free long distance for all of you, all over the world. 1-855-591-6TSN. Okay, now if you have a BlackBerry, that's difficult. So it's 1-855-591-6876. Email stays the same. It's law@liveaudiowrestling.com. Twitter @LawRadio. And yes, find us on Facebook. Join the group, join the page, and get interactive. Facebook.com/liveaudiowrestling. So there's how you can talk to us, but we're going to start things off by talking to you, as we like to do, kicking things off with the news of the week.
And now, the professional wrestling and mixed martial arts news of the week.
All right, the big news of the week anchors around TNA shaking up their creative team with Bruce Pritchard taking over the role of head writer for the show and replacing
Yes.
Vince Russo.
Finally.
Well, don't get too excited, Mouth, because Russo is expected to remain on the team and work alongside Pritchard and Matt Conway.
But at least it's something, Jay. Finally, somebody's realizing what this company needs. It's about time. Here's other major news, too, from TNA. The company has signed Hulk Hogan to a new contract, which should have expired this Monday, actually, 6 days before the biggest show of the year, which is totally centered around Hogan. But he's locked in. He's staying for a little while with TNA.
Now, Jeff Hardy checked into the Moore County Detention Center in Carthage, North Carolina on Monday morning to begin serving his 10-day prison sentence stemming from his September 2009 arrest, which includes a 30-month probation period and a fine of $100,000.
Darren Young, whose real name is Fred Rosser, has been suspended by the WWE for 30 days after his first violation of the company wellness policy.
WWE Raw on Monday night will take place in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and they have promoted on the company website that Christian is planning, get this, a solidarity rally
Yes, brother.
in the parking lot featuring the talent that walked out last Monday.
Yes, well, we'll talk about this, I'm
Yes.
sure, as the program progresses, ladies and gentlemen. Don't get me going already. The WWE underestimated their universe this week when they opened a new section on their website where fans could post photos from live events. This resulted in someone posting a nude photo of Taryn, that's Tiffany, who used to be with the promotion,
Yeah.
as well as China's, what I'm going to say, naughty bits. And that's all I'm going to say. Even funnier, though, I guess, is they took a picture of Mike Tenay and Taz and made it look like they were reacting to the picture of China's bits. But anyways, there you go. That's what happens when you let the fans get in there without a moderator.
I heard the Tiffany photo was actually posted by Drew McIntyre.
Oh, could be.
Is that what happened?
Could be.
No,
Could
okay.
be.
Mike Johnson at PWIinsider.com has reported that the WWE and THQ will be announcing the inclusion of, get this, Brock Lesnar to the WWE 12 video game this Tuesday as one of the legends in the game. Now, this licensing deal has been in the works for quite some time, dating back to the spring, with the UFC has given their permission, providing Lesnar is only portrayed in his wrestling
That's right.
persona, not to emulate the MMA presentation.
Which they're almost exactly completely the same.
Yeah, but maybe he's just heavier. Now, he's heavier and larger, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's flip over to the world of mixed martial arts now, and for that, we throw it over to John Pollock.
And here are the results of the pay-per-view portion of UFC 136, which was held Saturday night at the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas, in front of 16,164 fans and a gate of $2.23 million. In the main card opener, we saw Joe Lozon submit Melvin Gillard with a rear naked choke. That one coming at 47 seconds of the first round, and a big upset.
You bet.
Lozon was a 3-1 underdog going into that fight.
That was very fast.
Nam-Fan defeated Leonard Garcia in their rematch with a unanimous decision, taking 29-28 scores across the boards. Chael Sonnen defeated Brian Stan with an arm triangle choke at 3 minutes and 51 seconds of the second round, and then stole the show afterwards with his promo.
Cut the best promo ever, ladies and gentlemen.
For anyone who didn't see this, you have to find this online and watch this promo. And for all of you wrestlers out there that might be listening, go take notes.
Wrestling 101 right there. I don't know if the promoter's going to be happy about him booking his own matches right there in the middle of the cage, but he did get a lot of attention out of it.
Then we saw Jose Aldo defend his featherweight title, defeating Kenny Florian by unanimous decision. All scores 49-46 for Aldo. And then in the main event of the evening, Frank Edgar defeated Gray Maynard by TKO. There was no controversy in this one, coming at 3 minutes and 54 seconds of the fourth round, with Frank Edgar retaining the lightweight title. The following were the recipients of the $75,000 bonuses that were handed out after the show. Fight of the night went to Nam-Fan and Leonard Garcia. Knockout of the night went to Frank Edgar, as he was the only one who had a knockout on this show. And submission of the night to Joe Lozon. Lozon has now received either the fight of the night or submission of the night in 7 of his last 8 fights.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Including 6 straight after last night's bonus for submitting Gillard. The UFC announced the main event for UFC 140 December the 10th here in Toronto, Ontario, with John Bones Jones defending the light heavyweight gold against Lyoto Machida, despite injuring his feet in the Quinton Jackson fight at UFC 135. Jones will be ready to fight at that time. The UFC will be holding a press conference here in Toronto at the Air Canada Centre on Wednesday to kick off ticket sales, with Jones, Machida, UFC Canadian head Tom Wright, and Dana White all attending.
Now, we'll talk about this because this is a bit of a throwaway for the main event and possibly screwing up the Rashad John Bones Jones fight coming up, because if one of them loses, then we got problems.
And finally, UFC President Dana White has confirmed that all non-title main events for the rest of the year following UFC 137 will be 5-round bouts. This is going to include the following fights: Michael Bisping against Jason Mayhem Miller at the Ultimate Fighter 14 finale on December the 3rd. Frank Mir against Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, which was set for Toronto, but that one might end up now changed back to a 3-round fight with the title fight added. And Brock Lesnar against Alistair Overeem at UFC 141 on December the 30th.
Alrighty, so if you're just tuning in, this is The Law. It's TSN Radio. Jason, the Mouth, and John here with you, folks. And we got a whole bunch of good stuff coming up in the program tonight. Mick Foley is our guest. John had the chance to chat with him a little bit earlier this week. Along with that, Tight About Trivia is coming up. Dave Meltzer, all that good stuff, that we like to do each and every week for our longtime listeners. And for all you new peeps, hey, it's The Law. It's a wrestling and MMA show, and we're happy to be here on TSN Radio. Back on the other side with a lot more of what I just talked about, so don't go anywhere.
best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
On TSN Radio.
I have received an email. Trending worldwide on Twitter right now. The voices of each and every one of you. I have your attention.
Shut up! Just read it!
From headlocks to contract talks.
I simply want you to sign the contract for the right reason.
Title bouts and tap outs.
It's all over!
The Law presents
OMG, WTF, LOL.
Trending Topics.
Now, I am here once again, let me explain, to save this business. Because right now, this business is at an all-time low, Mike. When Vince Russo was in charge, the ratings were at an all-time high. House shows were packed. Evolution is the solution, Mike.
This is Vince Russo from WCW, and you are listening to Live Audio Wrestling. Stay tuned for Nitro.
Hello. I can't resist. I can't resist.
Supposed to give me the I love
That's right.
you.
Hello, friends. I love you.
Of course, a reference to Brother Love, which is the theme that we were listening to now and was played. The character was played by Bruce Pritchard,
Right.
who is now in charge of booking and writing over at Impact Wrestling / TNA Wrestling. If you're wondering what you're listening to right now, this is a program called The Law. Live audio wrestling. It is our first show here on TSN Radio 1050. Very happy to be here. Jason Agnew, Dan Lavransky, and John Pollock are the three peeps joining you. And this is a news segment that we're doing here on this program, and it's called Trending Topics. We used to do the Power Poll. Not anymore. Trending Topics is about what is going on in the world of pro wrestling and MMA news, and that is the big story of this week.
Huge.
And I believe, Mouth, when we heard this, I heard a scream from across Toronto, and it was a scream of joy from you.
I couldn't believe. Well, I mean, look, long-time listeners of this program know that one of our pet peeves and one of the main issues with TNA that's a big problem is that Vince Russo and his style of Hollywood TV writing, and it just doesn't fit with professional wrestling, and it's been one of the major problems. And to hear, in fact, TNA finally actually addressed this issue and try to do something about it. Now, Vince Russo's not gone completely from what we understand, right? Bruce Pritchard is in charge, but he will still be on the writing staff. He just won't be running the ship. So I think it's definitely definitely a good thing, obviously, and it makes me even more curious for Bound for Glory because I suspect we'll start to see stuff around then because all the TV leading into that's been shot and everything's worked out and that was all written. And I'm thinking coming out of Bound for Glory, maybe we're going to start to see a little bit of a change, or maybe even the stuff that we've seen with Robert Roode.
Well, yeah,
because it was done so well. Maybe that's the beginning as well. But anyways, I think for most wrestling fans, it's super good news.
Well, really, Bound for Glory is going to be an interesting pay-per-view for Impact Wrestling, which this is happening next Sunday night. We'll be back on the air covering it right after it happens. And there's two reasons and two things that are really being pushed on this pay-per-view. Number one, you have Bobby Roode. The Robert Roode push that is going on in TNA right now is excellent. They're it seems like doing everything right, and it's almost, I'm in a bit of disbelief now.
No, absolutely, because you know what made me really scared me about it? Because I watched it, and this week, the stuff with his tag team partner, James Storm, the match, they built it up really strong and everything, but then I'm watching the same show, Jay, and there's Samoa Joe getting burned again. With I'm just saying, there's the contrast of, this great build of Bobby Roode and the total destruction of Samoa Joe. There they are right on the same show.
I wasn't going to say that, Mouth. Actually, I was going to say the fact that, you look at this pay-per-view next week, and the other big angle that's being pushed is the Hulk Hogan non-retirement that we saw this week.
So bad.
There is a match going on with Sting happening at this pay-per-view, and that is one that I want to watch for all the wrong reasons.
Absolutely.
How are they going to do a match? Hulk Hogan has had so many back surgeries at this point, can barely get into the ring, never mind actually have a match.
Yeah, he can't take a bump. They were very clear, if you noticed at the end of Impact, when Hogan got in Sting's face, he was very clear to say, I'm not going to wrestle you, we're going to have a fight. So you know that it's going to be a brawl, you know that it's going to have, I'm sure, lots of tables and chairs, and there's going to have to be lots of guys doing run-ins, because Hogan can barely walk, so he's not going to be able able to do anything. But you're right. It makes for a very interesting pay-per-view because you have the one awesome build with Rude and Angle for that match for the title, and then you have the kind of train wreck angle with Sting and Hogan because I'm so curious to see how they're going to get around it. And we know now, too, that Hogan is staying. Hogan has signed a contract before. You know, a lot of us, I think, were thinking that maybe he might bolt after this or something, but he signed another contract, so that means something with him is gonna come out of this. So that's got me intrigued too, because I kind of thought they would do this angle and then that would kind of be the end of it. But so he's still around. So.
Of course, we want to hear what you guys think about all this as well. We are taking your calls tonight. The new phone numbers for this program are...
Give them out.
416-870-1050. That's also toll-free long distance, 1-855-591-6876. Now, here's the deal, guys. Apparently, there's one line that comes in toll-free long distance. If you have Skype and you do want to place the call, then place it on the local line, and you will be able to get in quicker. There are local lines open right now. The long-distance toll-free line is taken at the moment. We will be getting to your calls, doing them all show long. Now, John Pollock, of course, on this program is the man that all week long is looking at the trending topics that happen. He's following the news. So, John, what else piqued your interest this week as far as the world of wrestling and MMA?
Well, I think we absolutely have to discuss the angle coming out of Raw on Monday night with the walkout angle, which was something that I think left a lot of questions at the end of Raw, but it seems like this was
the right questions.
It was very short-sighted on the company's part in terms of what they're going to be doing, and that's what came across to me on SmackDown this week, of suddenly now SmackDown is okay for these performers to appear at, not Raw, and I don't know what the follow-up is going to be on Monday night that can possibly build upon this angle that seems to have been an idea that was executed without thinking of the long-term ramifications.
It's from the get-go, it's a super bad angle. I mean, how can you buy in professional wrestling that all of a sudden it's out of control?
Well, the thing is,
like that angle, come on. I mean, we've seen guys get thrown off buildings, cars filled with cement. Trucks thrown off buildings set on fire. Come on. The very basic premise of the angle itself is ridiculous. It doesn't build to any the match is Hunter versus the entire roster.
Yeah.
It doesn't build to any kind of thing. And the sad thing is that it's all just to bring McMahon back again, because McMahon thinks whenever the ratings go down that he needs to be on TV. So they're going to do some crazy thing to get. I have a feeling this is going to be over very quickly.
I think it has to be over very quickly. If you look at what's happening, if you looked at what happened on Monday, you had so-called all of the wrestlers surround the ring, but in actuality, it wasn't all of them.
Punk wasn't there, Cena wasn't there, Kelly wasn't there.
All your main players.
I noticed that.
Your main players, Mouth. Essentially, the performers that the company wanted to protect were not at ringside, so haven't officially walked out on Triple H. And it was interesting because as the announcers walked away, this was clearly not thought out, because you had JR go on his Twitter this week and say, he wanted to come back. Booker T on SmackDown said that he thought the show was over.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what everyone was talking about.
Bathroom.
He had to go to the washroom.
Yeah. I thought it made the announcers look really bad, because
Totally.
if you're going to do something where Jim Ross walks out, that's someone that does have a lot of credibility with the audience, and now all of a sudden he's just turning it around. That to me tells me that they didn't think of this at all. And I was one who I thought it was executed very well on Monday, and I was at least intrigued to see what are they going to do next on SmackDown. And unfortunately, that's pretty much where the team had thought this up and had not even planned for SmackDown the next night, and already they're backpedaling.
Well, and the other problem with this angle to me is that this type of thing is going to have heavy stipulations. Anything involved in an angle like this, all the matches are going to be stipulation heavy, and we've proven over this past year alone that no one gives a crap about the stipulations, and that no one's going to believe in even this stipulation. If this leads to something like Trips is going to lose his COO position, are you going to really believe it?
They just did that. They just did that at the last pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Or two pay-per-views ago with CM Punk.
Yeah.
And CM Punk and Triple H was putting this COO position or whatever it is on the line already. So, and that match meant nothing because it was done so soon.
The whole thing is it's a total mess, man.
Is this not something you could potentially, though, build for, where Hunter's got to fight for his job at the Survivor Series, and he has no one that will join him, and that leads to him having to call his friends, guys like The Rock, Mick Foley, and and apparently they're even talking to Austin now about doing that Survivor Series match, which would lead to, and I guess by de facto you can include Cena in that match at that point.
So think about what you're saying then. You're bringing these guys from the Attitude Era back into Survivor Series, who will then win the match. So you will destroy all of your new talent in order to go back and push the old stars.
For a one-off.
For a one-off to a degree, because Foley's going to stick around. So we might hear a little bit later tonight on our show. We do have Mick Foley as our guest tonight. John had a bit of a chance to chat with him earlier this week. We have that interview coming up in the second hour.
I honestly don't think it's going to be as convoluted as all that, and I think it's going to be over very, very quickly, and Vince is going to be back on the TV very, very quickly. Like, seriously, to be at my cynical best, tomorrow night Vince comes back on Raw.
Wow.
Do they not rush every single angle, Jay?
They do indeed.
It's in Oklahoma on Monday night, too.
Yeah, another place.
So Jim Ross is
definitely take some shots at JR, exactly.
Absolutely. You want to do one phone call before we go to break here, John?
Yes, let's go to Chris in L.A., who is on
the long-distance line.
Yes.
Chris, you're our first caller on the line.
Oh, yeah, consider this show Christmas, I guess. I gotta agree with you guys on the whole wrestlers walking out on Raw because of, R-Truth and The Miz attacking people. I remember the angle where Kurt Angle tried to rape Charmel.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff that's been way worse than anything that's happened in the last month.
You have a rapist running around backstage, but, these two guys are the big issues. But I will have to say, though, on the flip side of that coin is I am actually interested in R-Truth and The Miz as competitors now, because before I really wasn't interested in either one of them, but now I think with this angle, at least I'm taking them seriously, especially The Miz, because I know you guys are always fans of The Miz, but I know I was never able to take him seriously until...
Really? That's okay. If it helps with that, I guess that's a good thing,
Thank you very much for the call, Chris. We're going to talk about this for the entire show, actually. This and anything else that's on your mind, you can give us a call. It's 416-870-1050. I know you want to chat, Mouth. I know you. Did you just go to the Ultimate Warrior music?
Yeah, that's what he's got.
Our fans are just going to destroy you on the Facebook page. That's Patrick. He's our new operator. Toll-free long distance, 1-855-591-6876. Give us a call. We're chatting wrestling and MMA. This is The Law on TSN Radio 1050.
You're listening to Live Audio Wrestling.
Let's take a walk on the wild side, and as the ladies say, do-do, do-do.
On TSN Radio.
All right. So let's have a vote of confidence then. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. So on behalf of me and all of my colleagues, we vote no confidence.
I'm sorry, Triple H. No confidence.
Hunter, I'm sorry. No confidence.
And I've always heard that actions speak louder than words. I don't know what anybody else is doing, but right now, I'm reluctantly walking out.
Well, he wasn't all by himself, though. Jerry Lawler walked out, and then everyone else walked out on Monday Night
Leaving
Raw.
Hunter all by himself.
Oh, Hunter all by himself, except for when Zack Ryder came back out.
We're focusing on Triple H.
I got it. And he focuses on himself as well.
Does he ever?
Welcome back to The Law, friends. It is Live Audio Wrestling right here. It's our first show on TSN Radio. If you want to get in on the action, we're taking your calls for the next little bit. 416-870-1050. 1-855-591-6876. You can call in on that and do it toll free. And if you got Skype, though, call in on the local number because it is easier to get through for all of our listeners across North America. Now, Mouth, you were jumping before we went to break, and you had more to say, and I had to cut you off.
Yeah, that's okay. There was just the other thing about this whole angle with the non-confidence thing is I love the whole thing with the referees. Like, they're like the referees. I mean, again, the referees get bumped. They've been bumped for like decades, and they go through hell, especially in TNA. If anyone was going to riot, the refs at TNA are the ones that get bumped every pay-per-view main event. But you know what? The best thing about it, we got to hear a referee's name on the air.
We did.
We're not supposed to hear them,
no,
but we
not.
did. We knew that was Mike Chioda.
But even better than that was Beth Phoenix, who then Triple H turned back to her and said, "Beth, what has happened to the Divas since I've been here?" And she said, "Nothing, but something could happen," which was one of the best lines on the show. It's very funny. Of course, something could happen.
Yeah.
It's very funny stuff. So that's what we're talking about. The walkout that took place this past Monday Night Raw, then the walk-in that took place on Friday Night SmackDown because the writers and bookers clearly did not think this out.
Yeah, because did they not specifically say on Raw that it was the whole WWE walking out, and then it's like, well, why would anyone even be on SmackDown then?
Well, they came to that agreement, Mouth, when Triple H gave Teddy Long full control of that show, and then people came back. And also, the justification for all of the house shows that took place over the weekend was the fact that the wrestlers would perform at them, providing Triple H was not there. So clearly, all we're saying
He's not
here...
at any of the house shows anyways.
Well, all we're saying here on the program is that clearly this was an angle that was not thought out. It was presented.
Not even close.
They thought that on Monday Night Raw it would work, and then didn't think anything beyond that. So we want to hear your thoughts on this. John, let's go back to the phones. Where should we head to?
We'll go to line 2. Richard is calling us from California.
Hey there, Richard.
Hello. Yes, I'm Richard. I'm calling from Los Angeles as well.
Right on.
I got what's going on with the WWE. I'll tell you what. Cena needs to be gone from the ring, and I mean permanently. Not one of these 1 week or 1 hour. I want him off the program because it is living proof that Cena is not tried. The reason why they got to bring The Rock in, or all these other old wrestlers, is that the current crop is not selling the product.
Wait a second. It's not that the current crop's not selling the product. They're working their butts off. It's that the product that's being given to the fans isn't what the fans want to see. I mean, they're not giving them what they want to see. It's not necessarily the talent's fault. It's what they're given to do.
Not only that, but you look at the talent not actually being given a chance. I mean, you saw the CM Punk angle being destroyed when he was on fire.
You know what? I couldn't believe this week seeing him and Cena like glad-handing each other in a tag match. Like, they just, forget what happened, 2 months ago. Like, that's one of the main problems right there, and it's because nobody's allowed to look special, so everybody looks the same. That's why you have to bring the old guys back, because they're at least seen as special, whereas, unfortunately, none of the new talent, because of the way they've been booked and all these false starts on all these guys, none of them are special.
That's true. They all just kind of blend in as they did at ringside.
And it's so sad because they start with a guy, like Wade Barrett's a great example. They gave him such a wicked push, and they tried to put him over huge, and we really thought they were going to have something with a new guy there, and he got burned. He's just another mid to low card guy now.
And you can see, because Wade Barrett was one of the first to take the microphone on Monday, and you can see this guy still has it. He's great on the microphone and delivered his lines excellently. He's tall, he's decent in the ring. He could have been made a star, but ultimately was just buried and made to be one of the pack. Now, someone who has stood out from that pack is Mark Henry, who is also... Now, Mark Henry was at ringside on Monday night, I believe.
Yes.
And did walk out from Triple H, which is surprising that they didn't protect him.
Yeah.
Then on Friday night, we saw the Big Show return and give a very emotional speech about being out.
Yes.
And then now this, I actually like this angle on SmackDown, how they put it together.
No, I thought it was good. I mean, it's the natural thing what you'd expect when he comes back, right? That he's mad. Yeah, he gave the big emotional promo and he went after Mark Henry.
And I love that Mark Henry said no. He's the heel. He's like, no, what have you done? You sat at home.
Exactly. You
I'm not giving you the match.
Yeah, exactly. You don't deserve nothing. You've been sitting at home. No, I agree. It was good. I agree. That part was good. Look, when they just stick to regular, normal angles like that, it's really good. It's when they try to do all this convoluted stuff that it gets out of control.
Indeed, and we're going to talk more about that throughout tonight's program. Maybe chat a little bit of UFC as well. So lots more here on the program. We going to break? What? No, we're not. What? You told me we were going to break. All right. Let's go to another phone call is what we're going to do. John?
All right, let's go to Nate in Virginia on line 7.
All right.
Nate,
TN8.
Brother Mouth and Brother Agnew, what's going on, guys?
woo, we're having some fun tonight, Nate.
Yes. First of all, congratulations on your new home.
Thank you very much.
And second of all, happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you saved me a plate.
Sorry, no.
Actually, you know what the funny thing was,
Sorry,
Nate?
no.
Because we were starting on this channel, normally Dan Lavransky is not here every year on Thanksgiving, but had to forego the Thanksgiving dinner. I have not had a Thanksgiving dinner either because we are here tonight for
man,
you.
You know what? This is my Thanksgiving that we actually landed in an awesome spot like this. Like I'm totally giving thanks. It's just without the pie yet.
Well, all the Law fans are thankful that you're back on the air. So,
what are we talking about?
My question for you guys is talking about one of your fellow countrymen, Bobby Roode in TNA.
Yeah.
I love what they've been doing with him lately. My only fear is that this could become a Monty Brown situation. Like when Monty Brown was hot, they didn't give him the belt. You think there's a chance in heck, excuse me.
No, that's fine.
That they don't give Bobby Roode the belt.
You know, there is always a chance. They really have to pull the trigger on this.
I think absolutely. You totally do. It's so tough with TNA though. You just never know what they're gonna. And the other thing, the match has to be done clean, man. You cannot have 75 run-ins in this if they're gonna put the title on him. Like he's got to beat Angle clean. It's got to be it's got real potential to be. I think they have to put the belt on him. Yeah, it could be really good for him and the promotion, but we'll see.
Not only do they have to put the belt on him, Nate, but they also have to make this the last match of the night. I think we chatted about this on last week's show in regards to the fact that what you don't want is Hogan and Sting out there last. You really want Robert Roode out there, belt held high, and the TNA logo coming up at the end.
Well, sure, because you also want a fantastic match to end your pay-per-view.
Yes.
Not a brawl with two old guys that aren't going to be able to do squat. So obviously, I agree. The title match has to go last, and it has to be clean. And that's what scares me, because what TNA main event can you think of in the last while that didn't have a lot of run? Like, they're notorious for overbooking the main events, man.
Well, Mouth, hopefully they get it out of the way with the Hogan.
They do it all then,
That's
and then
right.
just keep this one clean.
I mean, Hogan and Sting shouldn't even go second. I think you got to put Daniel and Styles second.
Oh,
right.
Maybe.
Interesting.
I kind of see it as being the second last match of the night, and then going out with the Robert Roode big win. It's bound for glory.
I think they should open with Hogan and Sting. And they can just get it out of the way quick. Get it out of the way quick. And then there's lots of time to take Hogan to the hospital.
I don't know, and he'll probably be there after this.
He's going to be hurt no matter what they do.
He will, indeed.
And those Philly fans are going to crap on that match.
You bet.
Of course they are, Nate. Absolutely. They're going to be, they're going to hate it.
It'll actually be quite interesting. Thanks for the call, Nate. It'll be interesting to see what type of fan shows up at this event. They're in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Naturally, when you think Philadelphia, you think ECW, Paul Heyman, and they mentioned it this week. In regards to Ken Anderson saying that, and Bully Ray will probably walk in there being a big star. If it is that audience that is going to the arena to watch this, is it going to be the ECW wrestling fan, or is it going to be people who just happen to catch Impact on Spike?
No, it's not. There's no one going to a TNA show, Jay, that just happened to catch it, okay? TNA fans, it's all hardcore wrestling fans. That's their only audience. That's the only people that would put up with this to go through it. So I do think you are going to get some of that ECW crowd because they are the hardcore wrestling audience.
And if they are, then TNA will get a great crowd. Well,
are you kidding? Are you kidding? If it's ECW fans for that Hogan Sting match, they will crucify those guys.
Well, they'll get a loud crowd.
Well, actually, I hope it is.
Me too.
They will crucify them. It's going to be awesome.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I've not said those words about a TNA pay-per-view in I don't know how long.
Since the late 50s, I
for all the right reasons and for all the wrong reasons, I'm looking forward to Bound for Glory next week.
Yeah, because you have the hot match and then you have the crap match.
We do. We're going to talk about it more here on the program. It's live audio wrestling. Jason Agnew, Dan Lavransky, John Pollock, chatting with you. A little bit of Zack Ryder, who was the one who got pedigreed after the cameras were turned off this past Monday night.
You know it.
You want to chat? Give us a call, 416-870-1050, 1-855-591-6876 are the numbers. Back on the other side, going to chat a little bit about the UFC event that happened last night and was excellent. It's The Law on TSN Radio 1050.
I stare into the mirror.
is Live Audio Wrestling on TSN Radio.
All right, I'm here with Chael Sonnen. Chael, first of all, congratulations on a dominant performance. You imposed your skill set. You did everything you wanted to do. How happy are you with your performance tonight?
Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck. Super Bowl weekend, the biggest rematch in the history of the business. I'm calling you out, Silva, but we're up in the stakes. I beat you. You lead the division. You beat me. I will leave the UFC forever. Let me do it.
Go ahead. That was Dan the Mountain Bransky wooing there. Welcome back to the Law Live Audio Wrestling right here on TSN Radio 1050. I'm Jason Agnew. John Pollock is in the other room, but is with us here as well. It is the Law Live Audio Wrestling, and that was perhaps the promo of the year.
Not perhaps, Jay. It's going to be tough to beat that promo, man. It's going to be even the ones that Punk did at the beginning of the angle there when it was still pretty hot. That it was because it was totally genuine and it was really succinct and it was just amazing.
And
I thought it was amazing.
Out of the world of Ultimate Fighting. Of course, that was Chael Sonnen last night after his fight, of which he came back. And there were doubts about Chael Sonnen because he's he's in his mid-30s. And he absolutely dominated last night.
He looked great.
Unbelievable. Has not missed a step. No ring rust whatsoever.
No, he looked really good against Brian Stan. And Stan is no one to sneeze at, right? Yeah, he looked really, really good. Finished the fight very aggressively and decisively, and then just cut that. It was great because Rogan set him up with a question. He completely ignored it. Just went right into his promo. I don't know. I'd be curious to know Dana White and Joe Silva's reaction to him trying to book matches right on the fly like that, but because this has happened in UFC before where guys have called guys out and it's never happened, although it's easy to do now because there are no other rival organizations. They're all gone now. UFC's destroyed them all, so this kind of stuff's easier to do, but we'll see. I mean, it was a great setup and it would be a huge draw, that fight. It would do very well.
Well, actually, Dana White was interviewed after, of course, by Helwani, and had said, he'd be pretty stupid not to do this fight.
Okay, good.
Next, and along with that, but doesn't know whether it's going to happen on the date that Sonnen is suggesting there, which is the Super Saturday, the Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah, because UFC always does a pay-per-view that weekend, right? Yeah.
And as well, Chael Sonnen, to fight in Nevada, has to get relicensed within the state. It could very well be a case of them to put that fight together. They're going to have to go to somewhere like a Brazil, or they're talking about going to Dallas, somewhere where
Texas
he can work much easier than California or Nevada.
Well, in the promo that he also cut with Ariel Helwani afterwards, and Chael Sonnen chatted with him, he was saying Vegas.
Yeah.
Sonnen was saying Vegas. But Sonnen said a lot of things both before, after, probably during this fight. He's definitely one of the most creative personalities in the world of UFC.
He understands how fighting works. He understands the drama, the basic drama that's at the heart of all athletic competition. It's not just about the competition itself. It's about who's involved in it and having the fans emotionally involved, and he understands that really, really well.
Yeah. Now, last night's card, overall, I thought it was a really strong card.
It was a good show. It was a bit of a change because a lot of the shows have been a lot of quick knockouts and spectacular submissions, whereas this was a card where almost everything except one fight went the distance, I think. There was almost every fight went the distance. So
I know we had, Lozon upset Melvin Gillard.
Okay, that was the quick one. Yeah, that was
and then along with that, Frankie Edgar did eventually knock out Gray Maynard as well.
Right.
Which, finally we put some resolution to that feud.
That one for sure, because a lot of people were picking Maynard, and I guess even though it's still not really, because each guy has won now and there was a draw.
Yes.
But Dana White has said they will not fight again.
Well, maybe down the line. I mean, there's just no interest in doing a rematch immediately
Right
here.
away,
You know,
yeah.
Edgar's got the belt, and the big thing that came out of the press conference last night is that Dana White claimed that Frankie Edgar is the second best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Of course, Anderson Silva being number one. Now, White is claiming this because Frankie Edgar does not cut weight in order to fight.
Right.
And a lot of people are asking him, why isn't he down at 145, where he's fighting at 155? So now looking ahead for Edgar and defending this title, personally, I don't agree with the fact that he's a better fighter than GSP.
No, I don't think so either.
I'm shocked at that. He barely got out of that first round. Again, it was basically the same thing that happened in the last fight with Gray Maynard.
It was even more intense, Jay, because it seemed like Maynard was even more bound and determined to try to knock him out in that first round. Like, he attacked even more aggressively in the first round of this fight than he did in the previous fight, but it ended up being the same result. It tired him out, and then Frankie just kind of worked away on him for the rest of the fight, right? Because Maynard was not the same after the first round.
And Frankie Edgar just has one heck of a chin. Like, just unbelievable that he can withstand.
That's again, that first round, he took tons and tons and tons of punches. So
and I think also mentally, like, you saw Edgar just with ease just stuff Maynard's takedowns. And for a high-level wrestler to see somebody like that just stuff your takedown, I mean, Edgar's a good wrestler, but not at the level of Gray Maynard. And Edgar had no problem stuffing those takedowns, and it seemed to me like Maynard, that took a lot of wind out of his sails in that second round when he was working for a takedown and trying to utilize his wrestling, and instead just ended up staying on his feet, where Edgar's speed is just too much for, I think, anybody at that division right now.
Now, speaking of that division, let's not leave there yet because, of course, Frankie Edgar, who's the next opponent? Now, on November, on the big Fox show that's happening in November, on the undercard there, you got Ben Henderson versus Clay Guida. If Clay Guida wins this fight, or, both of these guys are extremely exciting fighters and would make one heck of a bout with Frankie Edgar. But on the other side of that, you also have Gilbert Melendez probably coming into UFC. He's, of course, the Strikeforce champion, and this would be a bit of a unification. I would now, John. Looking at it from the MMA perspective, who do you see going next for this fight? Who's Edgar's next opponent here?
I think if Guida looks really good and defeats Benson Henderson, I think Guida is going to end up getting the nod. I think that's a very marketable fight for
match.
the UFC. That unfortunately the UFC fans are not familiar with Gilbert Melendez, but champion versus champion, that is something that you can sell. I personally want to see the Melendez fight, and I think that if Henderson were to win, I have a feeling that Melendez would likely bypass Henderson at this point.
Right.
But Melendez, to me, that's a very intriguing fight, and it's a champion versus champion fight that you can promote. That they are not able to do right now with Nick Diaz or with anybody else. Dan Henderson's vacated his title.
I don't think they would, John. I honestly, I really don't think that they would put that much emphasis on the Strikeforce belt. I think they might bring him in, they might mention it, but I don't think they're going to promote this as a unification fight.
Why wouldn't you?
I don't think they would. I don't think that,
because
to the common fan, I mean,
dead?
Gilbert Melendez is someone that's going to be difficult to market, and saying he is the Strikeforce lightweight champion, that resonates even if you've never seen Gilbert Melendez fight. So I think that would be foolish of them not to recognize their own brand that they own and unify the title. I mean, the unification fight, that's an interesting storyline in and of itself, whether you're familiar with Melendez.
Well, if they wanted to do that then why didn't they do that with Diaz? Why didn't they market him as, the Strikeforce champion going into fight GSP?
It was a mistake to have him strip the title, and that was the original plan, and then for whatever reason they chose against doing that. I don't know why they did that.
Well, I saw it once, and all I'm saying is I think I'm going to see it again. In my opinion, the best-case scenario here is Clay Guida wins that fight. You have Frankie and Clay fight, because then Frankie Edgar will beat Clay Guida. Yes. I mean, I believe
he'd be heavily favored.
Yeah, he'd be heavily favored. I think that he will beat Clay Guida, and then because you have him as a popular fighter there, it only makes Frankie Edgar more popular, perhaps a little bit more marketable. Let's do one phone call before we go out here to break. John, where should we head?
We'll go to Ken in Scarborough on line 1.
Line 1. Hello there, Ken.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Come on, Ken. Get off the speakerphone.
Come on. I am here.
All right, Ken, you probably want to talk. What do you want to talk? Wrestling?
I wanted to talk about the walkout.
Okay.
I think they could have done a couple more things that would have made it a lot more believable. Like, for instance, you notice how the cameramen left the ring?
Yep.
But they went to the hard side camera for most of that shot? What if they just went with that shot and that shot alone, and then you just see JR walking out, and then you just see everybody. So you assume that even the crew in the back walked out.
So you just leave it on one angle because they did have two cameras that they were still switching between.
Yeah.
All right. The believability of it is... It's about as believable as CM Punk's promo when, they cut the mic.
Yeah.
It must be real. Well, of course it's not real. If it was real, they would have not even let him get to the microphone.
In a product like professional wrestling, where it's about chaos 95% of the time, to do an angle like this saying things are out of control is really hard to sell because that's the nature of what you do.
Yeah, here's the thing. I'm afraid we're going to wind up like Survivor Series 2001. Remember the whole winner-take-all thing with the WWF at the time and the Alliance?
And then they hired guys back the next night.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen.
I want this angle to run its course quickly, man. I really hope this isn't like stretched. This one, I know I complain that they try to rush things too much, but this one in particular,
you just want it out.
Yeah, I don't want it. I don't want this one stretched out over a long time.
And for that reason, Dan,
they're going to.
It's going to be
probably.
stretched.
Probably till Mania next year or something. To me, it's just something you can't build to any constructive matches unless the Hunter's got to beat a bunch of guys to keep his job, which is totally jobs out whoever he beats. Like, I don't understand how you get any matches out of this. That's the other thing about this whole thing is on Monday, there was no promotion for the Vengeance pay-per-view at all.
Oh, that's true.
They didn't talk about Vengeance at all. It's 2 weeks away now. They have this Mondays they've got to deal with that angle, and they got to get stuff in place for Vengeance, or it's 2 weeks away.
It's funny because this whole angle seems to be leading up to Survivor Series, and that's actually all we've talked about. I completely forgot. There's a pay-per-view in between.
2 weeks.
All right, well, we'll talk more about it on the other side. We'll be joined by Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. He'll be here. And don't forget, later in the program, we still have Title Bout Trivia coming up. 2 great prizes, including the Randy Orton DVD set, The Evolution of a Predator, and John's conversation with Mick Foley, which could factor into this walkout angle. We're back with more on the other side. Right here, it's The Law on TSN Radio 1050.
Do you need more live audio wrestling? Hi, I'm John Pollock.
And I'm Wei Ting.
All we talk about is professional wrestling. Every week we present 3 podcasts with reviews of Raw, Impact Wrestling, and a classic event.
And where can listeners find our shows?
By going to liveaudiowrestling.com or subscribing on iTunes.
Wow.
And now we're on Stitcher, a free app to listen on all smartphones.
Whoa.
You're listening to The Law.
It's just a cold, hard fact.
On TSN Radio.
It's time! It's time!
Time to play the game.
Yes, sir.
It's time for the Wrestling Observer Extra.
Wrestling Observer Extra.
With Dave Meltzer.
Best by popular demand.
Right here on The Law. Live audio wrestling.
That's right, it's The Law, live audio wrestling. Jason Agnew, Dan Lavransky hanging out here with you. Got another hour on the program. It's our first edition on TSN Radio 1050. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, this is what we do each and every week. Actually, it's an hour later, I was going to say about this time.
It is.
But an hour later, we welcome on a gentleman named Dave Meltzer. He is the editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Dave, thanks for staying up with us.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing very well. Now, Dave, we've been talking a lot about the angle that happened this past Monday night on Raw, and I'm sure you know a little bit more of what went on behind the scenes in planning or lack thereof planning this angle. Clearly, this seemed to be something that was thought out to the end of Raw and no further than that after what we saw on SmackDown with people just miraculously coming back. So what was the exact thought process with the writers here?
Well, it wasn't so much the writers. It was Vince McMahon loved the idea of this walkout, and he didn't really think of, like, what do you do next?
So did this come up on Monday afternoon?
All I know is that the framework of the show was written on Friday, but what happened on Monday night was very little reminiscent of what was written on Friday. So, yeah, most of the show was written on Monday.
it's a terrible match. I mean, I don't know how. To me, Dave, how do you get this to play out and kind of make any kind of logical sense? And how do you get any kind of match out of this when it's like what, Triple H against the entire roster? Like everything about it, from the logic, the execution, none of it makes any sense at all, even for professional wrestling.
Okay, well, from a logic standpoint, SmackDown already killed any hope of logic.
Yes, it did.
So, I mean, we're past that point. So now your question is like, do we get a match out of this? And beats me. I mean, we'll find out tomorrow night. Because tomorrow night, I mean, let's face it, we got 2 weeks to another pay-per-view, so we better figure out some main events real quick. I guess we got Mark Henry and Big Show, but that's not exactly enough to tell a pay-per-view on.
No, that was the one thing about this angle, Dave, is that they totally ignored any prep for Vengeance on Monday.
Yeah, I know, and you would think with your pay-per-view numbers down that you would kind of like come up with more planning on how to get them back up.
And then what was also very weird to me is that on SmackDown they decided to present Alberto Del Rio as the leader of this faction all of a sudden when he was basically in the background on Raw. So I'm guessing they came to the thought process of the fact that, oh, well, we need to push Alberto and make him, because this is the big angle on Raw. So what does that lead? Like, who does he wrestle Triple H? Like, is that what we're leading to on the next pay-per-view?
I don't know. I know what they were going to do, but I don't think that they are anymore, so I have no idea where this is going on the Raw side. And I'm guessing the reason they make Alberto Del Rio in the front rather than the back is because he's WWE champion.
Mm-hmm.
And by putting him as just another guy, it really devalues the title. If he's front and center and the lead guy, then at least, he can be the lead, the Ric Flair of the Four Horsemen, as opposed to being the God only knows who.
Now, Dave, do you think this is an angle that's going to play out over a long period of time? I know we complain a lot that they rush things, but to me, this is an angle that I don't see it playing out for a long time. I see, it's clearly designed to get Vince back. So are we going to see Vince back, like, relatively soon?
I think so. See, here's the thing. You could probably get one television show tomorrow night out of, like, the guys picketing, right?
Right.
But it's got to be settled by the end of the show, because the next week they're in Mexico, and they can't very well do a show from, Palacio de Portes with everyone picketing outside.
Protesting, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Protesting in front, because, if they protest in front in Mexico, the drug lords will probably get them anyway, and they don't even have any guys.
Now, speaking of them going to Mexico next week, why would they waste Alberto Del Rio versus, Sin Cara on this week's SmackDown when you could put that match on in Mexico and just tear down the house?
Yeah, well, maybe they can do a rematch. I don't know.
I suppose. And then,
I grant you that the armbar in about 3 minutes probably isn't like the finish to build for a return. But
I was shocked.
Yeah.
Absolutely shocked.
Well, I think part of it is the Sin Cara had the bad match on pay-per-view, and there you go.
This is punishment.
Something like that, yeah.
Very strange. Very strange and illogical. But
I will say, like, given that show has great popularity in Mexico, the idea of Sin Cara, Mystico losing to an armbar the week before you go to Mexico is kind of mind-boggling.
Absolutely. I was completely thrown when I saw that. I thought maybe, in that case, why not do a schmoz finish with the other Sin Cara, who's still using the Sin Cara name, despite the fact he lost a match at the pay-per-view where he was supposed to not use the name anymore. Does make sense as well. Okay,
well,
speaking
they
of...
could do the mask versus mask match, but they've done a great job, Bill. It's a little early, isn't it?
Slightly, if they're going to do that next week. All right, let's flip over to TNA now, because we heard some great news, and that was Vince Russo's been ousted from the head writer. But how much impact does this actually have, Dave? I mean, he's obviously still kicking around and working on the team. We're going to see changes?
We've already seen the changes. I mean, this is something that's already happened, and there, the Impact's been a better show in the last month or so.
Well, certainly the Bobby Roode build has been awesome. That I will give you has been great. I don't know about the Hogan stuff, but the Bobby Roode thing has been really amazing.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can't say that the whole show was great. I'm just saying that the show is better because of the Bobby Roode stuff. I think they've done, one of those really great, one of the things I really love, which is the really great build-up of the new challenger. and people really want to see him succeed and win the championship. And so now they've just got to figure out what they're going to do and follow through. And then once if he wins, to then not move him into the middle of the card and have the world title third from the top, like they've done with many guys, and have it kind of meaningless when all said and done. But the Hogan thing, to me, I can't make heads or tails of it. It was so stupid on so many different levels.
Terrible.
No one bought it, and it's like, this is what I really hated about it was last week on the TV that they had Sting basically gave away that the whole thing was fake before it ever happened. That's fine. Okay, so this week's TV, you've got Mike Tenay and Taz 2 hours selling this thing that we already know is bogus.
Yeah, and then
so all it does is bury your announcers, and what's the point of burying your announcers? I mean, it's so counterproductive.
Yeah, and then the whole thing was so frivolous, basing it around the merchandise thing. I mean, to me, that was just the most empty, ridiculous excuse to build this huge angle on something like that. It was terrible. And
plus the timing of it. Why are you saying, why on the same show that you're saying Hogan's retiring, are you in commercials on that same show advertising a Hogan Sting match?
Yeah.
It's like you're telling people it's all. I hate when wrestling's like that. It's just ridiculous, and it just, I mean, it's why the company's in the shape it's in. So that's where I'm going to say, if this thing was a big difference, that wouldn't have happened. So it's a difference. The Bobby Roode stuff's really good. It's better. The wrestling matches are a little bit longer. That's better. But as far as the attention to detail and making things make sense, it's still TNA. It's the same TNA.
With the Hogan stuff, Dave, have we heard anything about what the actual match might be like? I mean, Hogan went out of his way in the promo to say it's going to be a fight. He said, I'm not going to wrestle, I'm going to fight you. Have you heard anything? I mean, I'm expecting a brawl with tons of run-ins and...
Probably. All I was told is that there probably would be no decision made until the day of the show, and Hogan was going to show up, and they're going to do whatever steps he comes up with that day. It's going to be based
awful.
Terrible.
Yeah, well, it's going to be based on what he can do. Like if he's having a good day,
right.
There'll be 4 run-ins, and if he's having a bad day, there'll be 9 run-ins.
Okay.
So,
Jay and I were talking about this earlier. At least if you keep the run-ins in that match, you can keep them out of the Bobby Roode match, because that match has to be really, really good and has to have a really good, strong, clean finish. You can't have 50 run-ins in that match.
I sure hope you're right, because I agree with you completely that the Bobby Roode Kurt Angle match, because I was really mad at them doing a run-in in the Bobby Roode James Storm match. It just made it aside from the fact that it made no sense. Why is, if you're going to do the run-in by Kurt Angle, and he's going to attack someone, why is he attacking Bobby Roode's opponent?
Yeah, I agree. It made no sense. Made no sense at all. Yeah, and that match again, if it would have had a clean finish, it would have been so much better.
Now, Dave, do we know? Have you heard? Because we have chatted about this before. Definitively, the main event for Bound for Glory. Is it Hogan or is it Roode? Do we know?
I don't know the answer. My gut would say Roode, because I just believe that after the Roode Angle match, it's going to be very difficult to follow them.
You want the image, the last image of the night. You want Bobby Roode, title held over his head. You don't want Hogan and Sting limping around trying to pull off a match as your final thing. There's no way. So
okay, you're right. But think about this. Okay, the stipulation that match is, if you're Dixie Carter and you're making the decision, right? Do you end the decision with Bobby Roode holding the title up, or Hulk Hogan, Sting, and Dixie Carter all together as babyfaces celebrating together?
So because
they're go in that direction.
Because they're flipping Hogan, and he's going to be a babyface by the end of that night.
I don't know by the end of the night. I just know that the plan was to flip Hogan.
Right.
But even if it's not, then it's Sting and Dixie celebrating, because Dixie's getting the company back at the end of the night.
I hope not. I honestly, Dave, I don't think that's not the image wrestling fans want to see at the end of the pay-per-view. I don't.
Well, and they're also in Philadelphia, which is something to consider.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
They're going to kill the Hogan Sting match.
Yeah.
If it's old ECW fans at that show, they're going to kill that Hogan Sting match.
Let's flip over to the world of mixed martial arts now. Dave, last night, of course, we saw UFC 136. A great card, a great show. Chael Sonnen stealing the show.
Promo of the year.
And as well as no ring rust, booking his own fight. Do you think we're going to see this happen on the Super Bowl Saturday, Chael versus Anderson Silva?
I got a lot better idea tomorrow. I got to make some phone calls, but I don't know that Chael just is booking his own angle. Because if I'm them, I tell you what. I mean, again, there's a security. I mean, this is hilarious because it's like we used to talk about this in wrestling about like remember with Sergeant Slaughter at that WrestleMania, it got him so much heat that it's like it's actually kind of scary, right? Because I mean, to me, it's the most obvious thing to do, and if they don't do it, I actually have texted some people in the company and told them this, that if you don't do this, 20 years from now, you're going to look back and go, how did we not do this? To me, this match needs to be at a stadium, and it needs to be in Brazil.
That would be insane.
No, think about it.
But
to be. It's the most perfect. It's like it's going to be the biggest thing of Anderson Silva's career if you do it that way. It's the thing that it will be the match that, you know, like Hogan and Andre the Giant. It'll be the match that Anderson Silva is remembered for decades.
Right.
Because he will never have a better opponent as far as, you know, getting heat. You know, and I know people hate when you use wrestling terms, but this is like the thing. And for UFC, the vision of Anderson Silva and Chael Sonnen, you know, it's a once, I don't want to say in a lifetime, but it's once in a decade match. If you put it in Brazil in front of, you know, again, like I believe you can get whatever it is, 68,000 people in Sao Paulo, or if they go to that 90,000 seat place in Manaus, Brazil, or something.
Yeah.
It's like this is one of those things that's like you can't book this. You luck into this, but when you luck into this, you got to grab it by the horns. You can't just say, you know, do the WWE thing when you luck into something and go, well, we didn't create it. So
Dave, here's the thing that you have to get Chael in and out of the country alive.
Yes, I know.
Which is definitely going to be a problem.
I know. Isn't it amazing that you would think of this as like for something like Roddy Piper in the 80s or something like that?
For sure, absolutely.
It was never like a year ago, if I go like, oh my God, you know, there's like this UFC match that would be so great, but the heel has got so much heat that they may stab him. We can't bring him into the country.
It's definitely going to be a problem. Dave, we got to go, but before we go, UFC 140, we got Jones and Machida on this card. This could be throwing away the Rashad Evans fight if Machida happens to pull the win out. Why did they bother to do this when they're going to fill Toronto, even with the card they had, without putting this main event on?
Would they fill Toronto even without it? Because I don't,
100%.
I think that they were afraid that they wouldn't.
100%.
I think they're a little bit worried, Jay, that second show that's not going to have that guaranteed sellout just because it's the first time.
Guys,
right?
think about this, though. They're not going into the Rogers Centre. They're going into the Air Canada Centre here. You're not filling a stadium of 40,000. You're filling a stadium of, 17 maybe? Would have not been a problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, it was not the decision I would have made. I mean, I think that, again, John Jones and Rashad Evans is a match that basically needs to be made. And, in this business, it's like if you go, well, we'll put, John Jones against somebody else, and we'll put Rashad against somebody else. And if they both win, then we'll have them meet in the middle of next year. It's like, one of them is going to go lose.
Yep, that's the problem. Dave, what's coming up in The Observer this week?
A story on the Bret Hart Shawn Michaels DVD.
Ooh, I've heard it's great.
It's great. It really is. It's one of the best ones they've ever done.
Wow, that's amazing. I can't wait to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in there. The thing is there's nothing in there watching it that when you're going to go like, you know all of it going in.
Yeah,
it's just the emotion that Bret, Bret is really good in this DVD. Jim Ross is excellent in this DVD, and Shawn it's something. Shawn is something to see. I mean, he was he comes across very likable, but the thing with it is like his. I was just surprised at so many things in this, and the one that I would say was made it so amazing is the portrayal, because at the end of the thing, as much as everyone wants to say it's not a DVD about Montreal, Montreal is they don't overdo Montreal, but Montreal steals the show, so to speak.
Yeah,
and when you watch that, it's totally pro Bret Hart on a WWE DVD after all those years of them bearing the Bret Hart side, and he was going to go to Nitro, and Vince had to do what he had to do to save the company. You watch this DVD and you think, what the hell what was Vince thinking? Why did he do it? There was no need to do it. And Bret comes off, and I mean, on the Montreal thing, I've always pretty much felt that Bret was unfairly castigated in so many ways. And when you watch this DVD, you come to the exact conclusion that Bret was a victim. Bret didn't screw Bret. You know what I mean? It was
Vince.
It was Vince.
It was Vince.
And Shawn, just basically says it was the worst moment of his career.
All right. Well, definitely look forward to reading about that, and then we got to get our hands on that as well. Dave, thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you next week at this same time.
Bound for glory.
Have a great week.
Bound for glory, indeed. Thanks, Dave. All right, we are taking another break here, but on the other side, going to chat a little bit about more wrestling stuff, taking your phone calls if you want to get in on it. 416-870-1050, along with that 1-855-591-6876.
Bang Bang, that's all I was going to say. We got Mr. Bang Bang coming up.
That's coming up. That's happening in about 10 minutes from now. We got Mick Foley coming up, and Tight About Trivia still to come as well. It's The Law right here on TSN Radio 1050.
You're listening to Live Audio Wrestling.
Well, for men, maybe Saturn, maybe Venus, possibly got me a little condominium on the moon, yeah.
On TSN Radio.
There's guys like myself, and guys like James Storm, and guys like AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, and Kazarians, and guys like that who have stayed around and been loyal to the company, that have kept this company afloat. And of course, you got your Kurt Angles, your Hulk Hogan's, your Ric Flairs, your Stings, the guys, the names that have been around for a long time that got the fuse. But honestly, this is 2011. This is the time for guys like myself to step up, to get that torch, and carry it for years to come. I truly believe that I have the talent, I have the skill, I have the will, and I have the desire to take this company to bigger and better places, and I'm willing to do that, and it's going to start at Bound for Glory.
Hey, this is Kurt Angle, and you're listening to Live Audio Wrestling, the show that obeys the 3 I's: intensity, integrity, and intelligence. It's true. It's true.
Well, it's real now. Actually, he's not allowed to say any of that anymore.
That's an old liner.
In Impact Wrestling. This is The Law, Live Audio Wrestling. Jason Agnew, Dan Lavransky, John Pollock here with you. Hanging out, chatting wrestling. That was, I have to say, what we just heard there was a clip of Bobby Roode, who he's preparing for the match with Kurt Angle that's coming up next Sunday at Bound for Glory. That was a great little promo they did with him.
The vignette where they actually went back to Peterborough and shot that footage at the hockey arena where he saw his first wrestling matches and stuff. It's brilliant. It's so simple. Like, people just want a little emotional hook to get into the fight, and that's one of the easiest ways is take the guy that's fighting back to his hometown, show all the old haunts, show all the friends and stuff like that. It instantly builds a connection with the viewer, and I just hope they don't blow it at the pay-per-view, Jay, and that he wins the title, and that it's not done with 50,000 run-ins.
I agree with you, Matt. I really think that this is a great opportunity for TNA to have built their own star. Robert Roode is one of their own, and even in that promo that they showed Robert Roode in Team Canada.
Yes, that was good. They showed Scott D'Amore and all that kind of stuff.
So they have a history with this guy. They've made him. He's one of their own. He's ready to take this belt, in my opinion. And as to what Dave said in the last block, the key to this is if he does get the big win, he then has to be main eventing these pay-per-views that are coming up.
That's right.
Being on last, even on Impact. He can't just be middle of the pack defending the title.
No, his angles have to be the focus of the promotion. It can't be like we were talking about, he's defending the title on a pay-per-view, but that's not the main angle. It's like, and that stuff can happen. It's happened before where the champion gets lost in the shuffle and he's not actually the main focus of the promotion. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, they've done a great job building it up. The follow-through, that's always been TNA's big weakness, is they love to start things and then not necessarily follow through. So we'll have to see. This is the ultimate follow through, this one. It really is important what happens to him after he wins the title too.
Let's go back to the phones. New phone numbers here: 416-870-1050, 1-855-591-6876 to have your say here on The Law. John, where are we headed?
Let's go to line number 7. John is in Arkansas.
John of Arc!
Already found us.
Welcome to your new home, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, John.
Wow, man, lots of crazy stuff happening. I'm excited about the new direction for TNA with Bruce Pritchard.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully this will be a little bit of a change of pace. it looks like it so far.
I wonder if he'll bring back Brother Love.
I don't think so.
That would be awesome.
Not
I'm
allowed,
sorry.
probably.
I barked out for that. I'll be honest. I love how WWE just cannot make a clear-cut decision. I mean, my God, you spent all that time investing in doing this walkout only to scrap it? Is Vince smoking crack? I mean, what's wrong with him?
He just seems to be so separated from how the product used to work. I think over the last 20, ever since the expansion in the 80s, I think because he wanted so much to be part of the entertainment business that he just can't. He just keeps his head wrapped around all that kind of stuff, and he doesn't really think like a traditional wrestling promoter, even though he did back when he was younger. I just don't think he looks at it the way he does anymore, and that's part of the reason we get all this kind of convoluted stuff.
I'll say this on the entertainment thing. It's one of the things. I have no problem with bringing in the celebrities and stuff like that, as long as you incorporate them, not them the other way around, where it's completely backwards.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know, a great example of that, thanks for the call, John, was recently the way they utilized Hugh Jackman, I thought was brilliant.
It was very good.
But that was mainly because Hugh Jackman is a great performer on stage. And along with that, he was able, I think he's also a fan. He just seemed like he was a fan, and he got right into it.
Yeah, no, he did an excellent job. I thought so as well.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and then on the other side, we will be going to our interview that John Pollock had with Mick Foley. And if you've been wondering what he's doing, what he's up to, and where he's going, there could be a little hint of that in this interview from what John tells me. So, it is The Law right here on TSN Radio 1050.
Someone known as the network got in the way. Introduced someone known as the Icon Sting. And your plans, they started to unravel, didn't they, Hulk? There was someone there to checkmate you every step of the way to make sure your grasp on TNA was not concrete. That someone is me.
Welcome back to The Lots, live audio wrestling right here on TSN Radio 1050. Jason Agnew, Dan Lavransky, and John Pollock here with you. And the music you hear in the background and the voice you just heard, very familiar to all you wrestling fans out there. Of course, Mick Foley, Mankind, Cactus Jack, Dude Love, and whatever name he tends to go by, who has actually ventured away from TNA Mouth.
Yes.
Into the world of entertainment.
Yep.
Except not sports entertainment WWE yet.
Not yet, exactly, yes. Qualifier.
Actually, has ventured his way into the world of stand-up comedy and has been doing some of that lately.
Seems like a good fit for him. Makes sense to me. I could totally see him doing that.
He's coming to Toronto for all our local listeners on December the 2nd and playing at the Underground Cinema. If you're interested, Google it, check it out. It would be very interesting.
It's a good venue, actually. It's a theater, but it's set up very well. It does have a stage at the front, so it's perfectly set up for something like stand-up.
So, John, you had the chance to chat with Mick earlier this week, doing a phoner with him. Was it all on stand-up, or did you kind of get a little bit out of him in the world of wrestling here?
Well, we started off on stand-up, and then we ventured into the company where the comedy writes itself in TNA.
Yeah. Okay.
And his exit from there, and then we started to dance around the subject of where he might be going next, and I got a pretty solid answer from him, I thought.
All right.
So let's listen to it. Here it is, John Pollock with Mick Foley on The Law, live audio wrestling.
Tell us a bit about this foray into stand-up comedy, because it seems to be following in the path of Kevin Smith, this unique entryway into the stand-up profession, where both of you are fantastic storytellers and have found the comedy that has come out of telling your stories.
Yeah, I really should go see Kevin do his thing. I had a really nice talk with him on his on his what do they call it? His podcast?
Smodcast.
Yes, his podcast. Because we also have the RAIN thing, the anti-sexual assault organization that the two of us share a passion for. So it really made for a good conversation. But you're right. It's essentially taking stories, humorous stories and then try to expand on them to get more laughs. I had done a lot of speaking in colleges where a lot of my stories were humorous, but because I was never billed as a comic, they didn't have to be funny. That was just kind of like the icing on the cake. When I did make the foray into comedy, I realized that you can't just go out there with some ideas, even if the ideas do lead to good stories, but you had to supplement them with some honest-to-goodness laughs. So I'm working on it. I had essentially shrugged off comedy as something that'd be too difficult to really get good at, because there's a real challenge. The challenge I really had was trying to get the same people who would willingly wait 2 hours in line for me to sit down in a comfortable club and listen to me, tell stories and do comedy for the same amount of time, for the same price. Because there was like a disconnect. Like comedy, like no, we like you in a wrestling, in a wrestling venue, even if it's a signing that has to do with wrestling. And so it was really frustrating to me, and I honestly didn't think I would have the capacity to, overcome that. I thought it would take too much time and effort. But about 4 months ago, a guy booked me out of the blue to do stand-up in way upstate New York, you guys in Canada, Plattsburgh, New York. And I went up there, and it was just a great evening. It really was a lot of fun, and I really thought to myself that if I was willing to work at it, that I could be good, and that I would avoid the fate of being that guy sitting on his couch 10 years from now going, I could have done that comedy if I wanted to. So I'm giving it a try, and we'll see what happens.
And we're going to see you up here. It's going to be Friday, December the 2nd at the Toronto Underground Cinema. And how are you catering your material? I mean, is this kind of geared at the wrestling audience? Is this something that you're kind of just taking everyday topics? Tell us a bit about what fans can expect going to see Mick Foley live for stand-up.
Well, I try to make it inclusive for everybody without alienating the people who do like for the wrestling, which is most of the people there. But I want it to be entertaining for everybody. So I use my jumping off point to go to other topics, and I'm kind of using trial and error to figure out how to get back to wrestling and how to weigh everything out. Last night, for example, was very heavily wrestling oriented, but it went really well. There are other situations, especially if I go and do a stand-up set unannounced and unpaid in front of just regular, people. Then, clearly I need to include some other topics. But I like to think of wrestling like the best education ever if you just travel around the world with your eyes and ears open. And so I share stories I learned along the way, and I share things I learned about people through wrestling. And at a certain point, I hope other comics just throw up their hands and go, that's not fair. He had 25 years on the road with the strangest people ever. So there are some really good stories that anybody can appreciate as long as they are willing to be open to seeing a wrestler tell them.
Now, speaking of giving the people what they want, Mick, I'll be crucified if I don't ask you about this one. And I want to leave as much up, understand the element of surprise here. But a lot of people are kind of expecting where you are going to end up next within the professional wrestling world or sports entertainment world. But my question to you is more directed from an in-ring perspective right now, Mick, and what you feel right now you're capable of doing if such a program were to arise that would put you back in the ring.
Oh, man. First of all, I'd really have to start working on the conditioning. I should really do that now in case some of these rumors turn out to be true. They're all rumors I started, by the way, so it's nice to know that form of communication is still viable.
You've been utilizing Twitter fantastic, I think, man. Dropping the hints before Hell in a Cell was great.
The hints, and I'm having fun. I think most people know I'm joking when I use the word. I'll show you, Jack, but I tell when I show up as the secret special guest referee at Hell in a Cell, and then about a minute later, I went, whoops, disregard that. I was trying to direct message Michael Cole, which is a little tip of the hat to Congressman Weiner, who sent a picture of his genitals and then tried to claim he meant to direct message and he didn't. So these things happen. But a lot of people took me seriously, were disappointed when I wasn't there, so I'm going to try not to spread rumors. But with that being said, I do think that I'll be showing up in WWE sometime soon.
I know that you've been following a lot of the WWE programming, and I'm just curious if, since you have left TNA, if you've sat down and watched the product as someone that just simply is now on the outside watching the product, or have you tuned into to Impact since you've left?
You know what? I hate to say this, but I really haven't. I watched for a couple weeks. Part of the reason I left TNA is I had lost faith in the product. And I don't know, maybe it's a dumb idea to give up a good paycheck and working with good people who I really did like because I don't believe in the product. But I really, I wasn't a fan, and I felt bad taking a spot on the roster that somebody else could really use. It's a very good company. I like the people. I'm personally, very fond of Dixie Carter. I just lost faith in them. And so I haven't watched in a while. And I think even months before I left TNA, I had really become a WWE fan through my kids. And once the CM Punk thing took off, wrestling, WWE Impact, WWE Raw and SmackDown stopped being something I would watch with my kids when I was home, and started becoming something that I recorded and watched back. And then I found myself actually calling my wife in for the first time in years and watch this, watch how they do this, look at this, look at that facial expression. And I really am a fan, and this is regardless of whether I end up back there or not. I'm really a fan of how they do things and how well the production runs. It's a very smooth machine.
And just one final note on the TNA front, and I think this is something that I think a lot of people want to see this company succeed and be a strong competitor. And I think it's just when people on the outside see all the tools that this company has, 2 hours in primetime television, a fantastic roster of talent, I think people just get frustrated at times. And I understand you're probably on the road today and haven't heard, but the story came out that Vince Russo has actually been removed as the head writer as of today, and Bruce Pritchard is now going to be in that spot with Russo having a smaller role. Is that a cause for optimism, or is it because you would probably know Bruce Pritchard's style a lot better than fans listening to this?
Yeah, I do. I know Bruce pretty well. As a matter of fact, Bruce did some of the comedy shows with me a couple of years ago. He was at the Las Vegas Hilton with me at the same theater that Elvis played at. I don't know Bruce's writing that well. I mean, he had a major say when I was entered WWE in 1996, and things really started clicking. And Bruce was one of the major reasons. And another key is that Bruce hasn't written in a long time, and so he's probably fresh, whereas Vince Russo has to be burnt. I don't see how you can't possibly be burned out. Even when everything was firing on all cylinders in WWE when Vince Russo was there, and I'm thinking especially to 98, there was just so many problems. There's so many people to deal with. There's so many great ideas that get changed or tweaked, as I would say it, and it is a frustrating job that I certainly wouldn't want it. But hopefully Bruce can do a good job. I had urged, and when I say urged, I mean capital letters, I had urged the powers that be at TNA to really put more emphasis on the wrestling. And that was, one of the things we just didn't see eye to eye on, and really one of the reasons why I left.
The Ric Flair match from last year, what did you take away from that match? It got a ton of positive reaction from people, but was one that, I mean, just from a health point of view from you, tell us how you felt after that match and what you did take away from it.
I was in pretty rough shape after that match, really just because of the heave off the stage. I'm probably too old to be doing that. It was bad enough to where I actually missed my book signing the next day, and I never miss anything. But that was also because of a limited number of flights. It took me a long time to get to sleep, and I probably didn't get to sleep until about 6 a.m. Because I was really hurting. And then, I overslept my flight. They just didn't have flights to
Kentucky, which is where I was heading. And I think in my mind I was also thinking, let me see if I can drive an hour and a half home, or I can drive to the airport and get on a small flight to Atlanta and then connect to Kentucky and then drive 2 hours. And I really felt relieved when I could not catch another flight. I made the date up, but I was really hurting. It was one of those things. It was a big match. It was the right thing to do at the right time. But you can't do too many of those things. And I also, knowing what we know now about concussions, may have rattled my brain in that match just by being thrown off the stage, even though there was no headshot. That's one of the things we're learning, that when you really rattle the body, that your brain is like, it's encased in your skull, and it bounces off your skull when you take a big jolt. So nobody really knew that way back when I was doing all those foolish things, in the 80s and 90s.
Have you ever thought about writing like an issue-based kind of book, like kind of delving more into this topic? Because I think you come from a very unique perspective, having lived this. Has that ever been something you've kind of thought about?
Not until this instant. Chris Nowinski did a really good book.
That's excellent.
And it had such a huge impact above and beyond the book sales. Because it's not a happy book to read. There's a lot of details in it, but he was able to get the word out and been able to make this huge contribution to science and to sports. Maybe I'll talk to him about doing something in the future together. Because both of us, at some time during each day, wonder what the effects of this will be, in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. The past, the guys who suffered the past don't leave a very pretty picture for us to look forward to.
And that is John Pollock with Mick Foley, and right there, you heard it, Mouth. Looks like headed back to the WWE.
I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, even though he did leave on not the best of terms when he was doing announcing on SmackDown there, and he just got tired of Vince being in his ear all the time, you knew that after a while, especially someone like Foley, who was a big star for the company in the Attitude Era, not a surprise that Vince would welcome him back.
So he will probably end up in the ring at some point or another. And who do you put him in there with, Mouth?
Honestly, because we talked about this already, how there's really no one for Taker to be with that would make a match that people would go to. This is the one. You save up Foley. You don't waste them. You let in the next day. But seriously, and I really think it's a match that fans would like to see.
Yeah, if it's built properly, I could definitely.
They don't have to climb to the top of the cell.
Nope.
Foley doesn't have to go through the cell.
Well,
but based off the legend of that first match with those two, or the several matches they had, they could easily do another one.
We'll see what happens. Coming up next, a little bit of title bout trivia here on the Law. Before
Prizes.
we say goodnight, there are prizes up for grabs. A couple DVDs to give you. If you want to play, you got to call in on the local line. And you got to do it now. It's 416-870-1050. 1050. 416-870-1050. Call in. Title Boat Trivia happening on the other side. It is the Law right here on TSN Radio 1050.
And now, it's time to begin our first bout of the evening.
It is the greatest sports and entertainment spectacular of all time.
This bout is one heck of a ring-ding-dong dandy.
Every time you think you got all the answers, I change the questions.
Go one-on-one and get it done.
That's that, baby.
This is live audio wrestling's title bout trivia.
Woo, woo, woo. You know it.
Hey, it's Title Bout Trivia time here on the Law Live Audio Wrestling. John Pollock, who are contestants this evening?
All right, we've got a Battle of Ontario on line number 2. We've got Frank calling in from Etobicoke.
All right.
And on line 4, we have Tony from Toronto.
Frank, and line 4 is going to be Tony from Toronto. Frank, are you there? Whoa, you're playing the Mick Foley thing again. Okay, and Tony, you there?
Yep.
All right, so here we go, guys. You are playing the game. It is Title Bout Trivia tonight. You're playing for a UFC 129 DVD, and along with that, the Randy Orton Evolution of a Predator DVD. All right, guys, here we go. Frank, first question is for you. Your question is, after Raw went off the air on Monday night, who did Triple H pedigree? Was it A, Santino Marella?
Zack Ryder.
That is correct. Very good. Zack Ryder. Frank, you got that one without a question.
I thought maybe one of the choices might be the entire roster.
Yes. All right, Tony, this one's for you. On SmackDown, Booker T stated he was not a part of the walkout because he thought the show was over. Where was he going to go, Tony? He was going to the bathroom. Very good. Correct, Tony. All right.
That was awesome to get a question out of that, Jay.
I was working.
Very good. Very good.
All right. 1-1 at this point. Frank, here we go. Your question. Who has taken over as the head writer for TNA/Impact Wrestling?
Bruce Pritchard.
Yeah, you got it. I don't even need
This is wicked. We got a couple of smarties on the line tonight. They're actually listening to the show.
Correct, Frank. All right, Tony, over to you now. TNA is current. You got to get this to stay in the game. TNA is currently negotiating with which cast member from Jersey Shore? Is it A, Pauly D, B, Ronnie, C, Sammy, or D, The Situation?
I'll say The Situation.
Oh, and you would be wrong. Sorry, Tony. No, the correct answer was B, Ronnie. So with that in mind, Tony, I'm sorry you don't win. Frank, you do, though. Hang on the line, and John Pollock will get your info so we can send you off your prize. It's a UFC 129 DVD. That, of course, is the one that happened here in Toronto at the Rogers Centre. And along with that, the Randy Orton Evolution of a Predator DVD, courtesy of our friends at E1 Entertainment. This is a great documentary DVD,
the Orton one was very entertaining. They did a good job. They actually spoke about a lot of the issues in his past that he had early in his career, you know, adjusting to fame and all that kind of stuff. He even talked about his phony wives in all the different segments they've done.
All right, we've got a few more minutes here on the program. We got some calls to get to, so let's get to them, John Pollock. Where are we headed?
Line number 7, we're going to Ronnie in Houston, Texas.
Hey
Played
there.
UFC last night.
Oh, cool.
Hey there, Ronnie.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Ronnie, welcome to the Law. What do you got on your mind tonight?
Nah, man, I just want to let y'all know, man. You know what I'm saying? Since it's a new era going on here, I ain't want to, I got to watch what I say, but, you know, the brotherhood represent tonight, but, you know, hey, but this whole, stuff with the, with the walkout and stuff like that. It's straight. I ain't tripping on it, but, you know, but I'm glad, like, they putting over, like, all these heels and stuff. I think Survivor Series, they're going to be like...
Whoa. You really think they're putting over the heels by doing this? How are they putting over the heels?
Man, let me finish. Man, anyway, yeah, you know, I mean, like, they're giving a lot of these guys, like, TV time, you know, because, like, the WWE team with The Rock going back, it's going to be star power. I guess they got to make these guys look
You know what? Here's the thing, though, Ronnie. It could be star power, but if they don't get the win... If they don't get the win, they don't get the rub. Then they're just buried again, and they're going back to guys from the Attitude Era.
They're going to get the rub when they get paid. When they get their paycheck, them business, man. Chill out. But anyway, man. But I'm the crew. I'm just playing with you, huh? I'm so nasty. Nah, I'm at work, man. So I gotta watch what I say. So I'm sorry. But yeah, man. But you know, it'll be alright though, man. You know, like. No, anyway, NOB, y'all still suck.
Okay, Jay, we know.
That's
enough, man.
I don't know what he was saying.
We know that it's time to go on to the next caller, okay? Let's go.
John.
Let's go to line number 1 and talk to Baroni.
Baroni, how's it going?
Baroni, are you there? Uh-oh, he's unconscious already. We know what that means, too.
All right, I don't know. I don't know where Baroni ended up there.
On the floor. What do you mean he's on the floor?
Here is the point that I was making in regards to the fact that heels getting TV time doesn't necessarily mean that they're being put over, because if they end up in a match at Survivor Series, and on the other side of the ring you see Triple H, John Cena, and anyway, and then bringing back The Rock, bringing back Mick Foley, and ultimately that team goes over.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it doesn't help them at all. Then you're running into a scenario like in TNA where they're bringing in guys like Hulk Hogan, Sting, Kurt Angle, and putting them over. And it doesn't help anyone.
This angle helps no one. The only thing it helps is to bring Vince McMahon back, and obviously that's the goal. But I mean, in terms of pushing your stars or making anybody look good or not, you've made the whole roster look like idiots already. So, I mean, there's no good coming out of it that I can see.
And ultimately, it just seems if Vince McMahon was so in love with this angle, and this is what Dave Meltzer said, that he just loved the walkout angle, if he loves it so much, he's probably just going to, want to write himself into the angle.
Well, no, I think that's why it was written. That's probably one of the reasons why he likes it, because he thinks it's a great way for him to come back.
So how does he come back? If you're booking this angle, or I know you wouldn't have booked this angle, but now that you
thought about it at least a little bit more.
A week's worth. But now that you have this angle, how is Vince McMahon integrating himself in? Because you have said the whole show that this is the way that Vince is getting back, but how is he doing it then?
Well, it depends where they want to go. I would think seriously myself that this should honestly not be a long angle. And it should all happen. It should happen on TV. Do you think bringing Vince back is going to help pay-per-view buys? No. This is a total TV thing, and that's why I think it has to be done quickly, because you got a pay-per-view 2 weeks away. You got to start pushing the pay-per-view. And to me, this is not going to help the pay-per-view. There's no match coming out of this. Really, honestly, I think it's just Vince should be back very soon. I would pull the trigger fast on this one. I know I go totally the other way most of the time, but this one, honestly, I would pull the trigger and just get him out there and let's get on with it.
So Dan Lavransky wants to see Vince McMahon back tomorrow night on Raw.
I just think this angle doesn't need to be stretched out. I don't want this stretched out to Survivor Series and him fighting every single guy on the roster and making them all look like crap just to do this angle. Because that's what's going to happen. It's going to be Hunter against guys, and he's going to bury them all.
That according to Ronnie, that's how he's putting them over.
Yeah,
burying them, he's putting them over.
Okay, whatever.
All right, we are wrapping things up for our very first edition of The Law on TSN Radio. Thank you all out there for joining us on the program this week. We're going to be doing it again next week. Remember, it's midnight till 2 is our new time that we are live, and putting the live back in live audio wrestling. And, of course, yes, for all the questions, we still are podcasting. You can find that at liveaudiowrestling.com. John Pollock, do we have plans for next week as of yet?
We're going to be joined by Bret Hart next week.
Bret Hart on the program next week.
And don't forget TNA's Bound for Glory pay-per-view. We'll be watching the entire event. We'll have the entire rundown. Like Jay said, 2 very unique matches for very different reasons.
So for John Pollock and Dan Lavransky, I am Jason Agnew. More great action here next week on The Law, so don't you dare miss it.
Brother!